from the St. George, Jacobite, Syrian Orthodox Church, Melbourne. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound, that saved a wretch like me. I was once lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. Those are the words that I'm sure you've heard before, being the lyrics to one of the most popular and impactful Christian hymns. But the story behind these lyrics is even more impactful. It was written by a man named John Newton. Newton had a notorious past being a slave trader in the 1700s, or in today's terms, a human trafficker. He used to traffic thousands of people from Africa by ship and sell them at auction blocks in America, having no regard for human life and no fear of God whatsoever. However, one stormy night changed his whole life. The ship that Newton was carrying slaves in was caught up in a great storm and on the verge of sinking. On that fearful night, Newton cried out to the living God to save him, and God did save him. On that day, Newton realized that God can, and that he will, save even the worst of sinners, which led him to accept God into his life. And soon after, God convicted the slave trader of his lifestyle and led him to quit the slave trade. And Newton went on to become a fighter for slaves' freedom. In fact, he became a key figure in abolishing slavery in America. Newton's story, it's not a new one. It's a reminder of God's grace seen again and again to save wretched sinners. A prime example can be seen in our Bible with the story of our beloved Apostle Paul, arguably one of the greatest evangelists of all time. But before he was all that, he was a violent persecutor of God's people and killed thousands of Christians. And he was pretty proud of it too. As Paul called himself, he was the chief of sinners, yet God found him too on a lonely road to Damascus. I know you don't need me to tell you the rest of the story. History speaks for itself. We don't hear much of Saul the persecutor, but we do hear of Paul the apostle. As we look upon these two prime examples, I want to remind you that regardless of what you've done, or where you are, or where you think you should be, you are never too far for God to reach. The same grace that changed Paul from a murderer to a missionary, and Newton from a slave trader to a slavery abolitionist, is available to you today. This grace has the power to right your wrongs and transform your mess into a message, even on stormy nights and on lonely roads. The only question is, will you accept that amazing grace? Amen.